Hello, everyone, and welcome to the talk about computer science at Hartford College. In this talk, we'll be discussing about the application process for computer science and be addressing some of the frequently asked questions. So I will be the host of this video. My name is Andreas Galanis, and I am a tutorial fellow at Hartford College and the professor of algorithms and complexity theory in the Department of Computer Science. It is my pleasure to have with me Radoslav, who will be helping me with this video. Hello, Radoslav.
Hi everyone, I'm Radoslav and I'm a first year studying computer science at Hartford. And as Andreas already mentioned, I'm going to be helping him out by asking some questions for this video, which I had prior to applying.
That's great. I have some slides to guide the discussion, but obviously feel free to stop me at any stage, Radoslav, and ask your questions.
All right, sure.
All right, so just to give you a brief overview about computer science at Hartford, we admit students in the single honors degree computer science and in the joint degree computer science and philosophy. We started admitting students in computer science a couple of years ago, and we admit currently 3 students per year. In computer science and philosophy, we have a longer tradition of admitting students, and we admit 5 students per year. And one of the reasons behind that is that the degree itself, computer science and philosophy, was introduced by our philosophy tutor, Professor Peter Millikan. Among our fellows in computer science, Professor Michael Woodridge is a senior research fellow at Hartford College and is also a head of the Department of Computer Science. Computer science is well represented within Hartford. And just to give you a rough idea about the numbers, we have 25 undergrad students and 10 graduate students in computer science. We have 3 fellows and 2 lecturers in computer science, and 2 fellows and 2 lecturers in philosophy. I should probably pause and ask Radoslav whether he has any questions.
Right, so I guess a very good question now would be, so you already mentioned that Hartford offers the single honors computer science degree and also the computer science and philosophy one. What's the difference between the two and which one should we choose when we are applying?
That's a very good question. So should you choose computer science or computer science and philosophy at Hartford? And in terms of computer science, there is actually a big overlap between the 2 degrees. So the first and second year core courses in computer science are very similar and span a range of subjects in algorithms, imperative and functional programming, discrete mathematics, probability, and models of computation. Second year onwards, students take optional courses in more advanced topics. Computer science students take courses mainly from the computer science department, whereas computer science and the philosophy students have the additional option to take subjects from the philosophy department. In terms of teaching, because of the big overlap between the 2 degrees, we treat our students as one cohort for computer science. Moreover, the admission process for the 2 degrees is almost identical. So you go for the degree that you like the most. So I'm not sure whether this covers your question, Radoslav.
Yeah, it does. Thanks. However, maybe another question now related to admission. So you mentioned that the process is almost identical. So what's the difference between the admission in computer science and philosophy?
So yes, there are 3 phases in the admission process. So the first phase is actually for you to apply. So the deadline for that is October 15th, and it's good to get started early so that you get familiar with the material that you need to submit. Once you do this, the next phase is to sit the maths admission test. So this is key in shortlisting applicants together with your UCAS application form. And the test is administered by the mathematics and the computer science department. All applicants in computer science and mathematics related subjects have to sit this test. And again, my advice for that would to start early and prepare for the test and also find the test center well before the deadline. Now, conditional being shortlisted, you will then be invited for the so-called Oxford interviews. This happened around mid-December, and you will have approximately 4 interviews in at least 2 different colleges. So the colleges organize themselves the interviews, so they have their own interviewers and their own interview process, but the interviews are also centrally coordinated. So all tutors discuss the result of the interviews with other colleges. The goal of this multi-phase process is to assess your understanding and your ability to learn new topics. So the admission criteria between the 2 degrees are actually identical. The only change is that computer science and philosophy students have an additional interview in philosophy. I'm not sure whether you have any further question on this, Radoslav.
Not really on this, however, a question that at least I had while applying. So we already know that there are at least 2 colleges that will interview you. How are they actually determined?
So yes, the first college you actually enter that on your UCAS application form. So, so that is determined from there. Now the second college is allocated automatically, and the allocation is done in such a way so that the distribution of candidates is even among colleges.
Then another question, now related to interviews, and I think most of us have had it while applying. So how does actually one prepare for interviews?
So yes, that's a very good question as well, and one that's harder to answer, I'm afraid. So how can you increase more generally your chances to be admitted? And there is no single recipe because this is a multi-phase process and we take every phase into account. Now, there is something that you can actually do to prepare, and that is prepare for math, for the math test. Past scripts and solutions are available freely. And the good news is that if you get shortlisted, if you pass math, then your chances to be admitted are 30%. And should be said here that actually there is no pass or fail mark for the math test, but the performance is measured relatively. So you should try to do your best on the math test. The good thing is if you prepare for the math test, then similar style questions are going to be asked in interviews. Now, this is a bit different, however. Interview questions are more adaptive and they are designed to reach the edge of your knowledge. So the key there is to be calm and relaxed and try to engage in a conversation with your interviewer and try to reach the solution to the problem you're presenting. Now at Hartfield, we realize that this is a stressful process, the interview, right? It's a technical interview where we ask mathematics and computer science questions. That said, we still realize that the interview itself is stressful. So we take that into account, obviously, and don't be afraid if you say something that's not accurate, but be calm and try to engage in the discussion with your interviewer. So that's the best answer I can give you on that, Radoslav. Do you have any further questions?
Maybe I'll go back a bit to the previous question about colleges. And we already know that the college you choose in the UCAS form matters for at least one of your interviews, assuming you did well on the math. Does it matter somewhere else?
For admissions, it's actually which college will interview first. Now, after that, provided you are admitted, the college does play an important role and comes naturally as part of your student life. So a lot of your teaching will happen within a college. Perhaps you also do some research within the college, but more importantly, you will engage with the college community. And that's a distinctive part of the Oxford student life, which I think is very valuable. So I'm not sure what has been your experience so far, Radoslav.
Well, at least from my first year, I definitely agree with that. Like, you have quite a lot of opportunities to meet different people, either from some societies or at lectures where you talk to people from different colleges. However, to some extent, most of the time, you spend most of your time with people from your college, at least in your first year, as you get to know each other. And yeah, I mean, you're basically living with people, so you spend most of the time with them. All right, maybe a question which is related to lectures and tutorials, like the departmental teaching and the college teaching, as that's something that's unique to Oxford. So maybe shedding some light on what's the difference between the two would be great.
Exactly. As you said, it's something distinctive to college that makes student life unique. What's the difference between departmental and college teaching, and more generally between department and college? So the short answer is that the college is there for you to make sure that you make good progress towards your degree. So let me explain a little bit the Oxford student life. So in terms of coursework, what happens is students attend lectures in the department and the assessment is done at the departmental level. Now, in terms of homework, this is set by the departmental lecturer, but what happens now, instead of submitting it to the department, the student submits the homework to the college tutor. So that's the first key difference. And now the more interesting part happens, that the college tutor organizes tutorials. So not only you get feedback for your homework, but also you get the chance to refine your understanding of the material taught in the lectures in the department. And sometimes extend, go beyond that. So college is there really to make sure that you're making good progress to your degree. And that's the key aspect of it. So related to that, let me say that there is spare time for other activities. Now for first year, we advise our Hartford students to focus on their coursework, because there are prelims examinations which determine whether you will proceed in the degree. So we advise the students to keep these activities to a minimum and focus on the subject they are taught. So at this point, let me ask you, Radoslav, whether you have any further questions.
Well, not really. I think we covered the most important questions one would have before applying. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a more difficult question. What's your best advice for prospective applicants?
Okay, so I guess first for admissions, we already know, as you mentioned, that the math exam is very important. So I would definitely advise you to prepare well for it. And if you do well on the exam, most probably you'd also do well on the interviews. So yeah, prepare very well for the exam. And then for the interviews, be calm and confident, because confidence is key. And yeah, I know that the process may be stressful, but in the end, at least for me, I was left with a positive experience. And I guess just apply and try doing your best.
So yeah, that's an excellent piece of advice, and I agree totally with it. And yeah, one important point that Radoslav made is that actually you should try to enjoy the process, and you will get the most out of it. So yes, we are reaching the end of this video. So pleasure to have you, Radoslav, and we hope that we address some of the key questions about the application process for computer science. We wish all of you best of luck with your applications. Bye, everyone.
Bye.